I'm joined by Zanaco Chief Risk Officer Mutisunge Zulu for a brief discussion on the KCM pledged investment. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Good afternoon, Chilesha. Thanks for hosting me.
First of all, I think it is the biggest story that we have seen making headlines, and we have had you on record talking about the mining sector. $1 billion investment pledge into KCM over a 5-year period. What does this really mean for the mining giant?
Thank you so much. So resuscitation of operations at Konkola Copper Mines by Vedanta is progressive, number one. Clearly, the mine had been reduced to just smelting. Production has plummeted significantly. The mine actually has capacity to push up to 350,000 metric tons. Taking you back to what Zambia's projections are for mining this year is that mining is going to go down by 10%, 682,000 metric tons. And part of the reason has been because the big two are not pushing the way they're supposed to. That's Konkola Copper Mines and Mopani. So an investment of $1 billion is a welcome move, because then it means production is going to go up. So the mine has suffered from a capitalization issue. So that investment is definitely going to go towards capital and bringing, operations, and then in so doing, it's going to create jobs. That's number one. Number two, the economy of the copper belt is going to change. When you look at the mines, you also look at supply business. So all those SMEs, the suppliers, are going to come back and demand is coming. One thing that's so exciting, Chilesha, is that the copper grade that's down there is 2.3%, second to none in the world. Most deposits that we see are about 0.4% lower. So you can actually see that we've been sitting on an asset, and then it's not only copper. There's cobalt as well. You go to Nchanga, there's cobalt. You go to Chilabombwe, there's copper. So, and copper is Zambia's mainstay. So clearly you can see that sentiment is coming back. Those investors that were sitting on the fence, scared that if they invest in Zambia, the state could wake up and take over the asset, all those fears have now been allayed. So $1 billion over 5 years, significant investment, and we also pray that that money comes and flows through the veins of the economy, because what this country has lacked over the years is money flowing through the veins of Zambia, and basically that's what economic activity is exactly.
Let's talk about the impact this will have on the country. And I ask this when we look at the foreign direct investment that everyone is anticipating, more investment in the mining sector. And we did hear also from Mr. Chilembo looking at how mining will be revived. But it's not just about the copper belt, like you said. What potential lies in Zambia reaching its potential in as far as copper production is concerned?
One, the $1 billion in itself is foreign direct investment, because Vedanta is a foreign shareholder. So them bringing $1 billion into Zambia, that's FDI. Secondly, it also sets the tone, like I did mention, that those fears that other investors who would have wanted to come into Zambia and were delaying execution of shareholder agreements have been allayed. So it means that whoever was fearing to bring their capital investment into Zambia, thinking that the state could wake up one day and take over the assets, fear is gone. It means that we should expect that there should be more FDI. Then we're talking about existing mines, and I think the next conversation will be Mopani, because I talked about the big two. So KCM done, the next is Mopani. So you can see that there's increasing momentum. On another side, if you look at what's causing demand, you've got your electric car and everything, and then we do know that those green metals, the battery metals that are needed in manufacture of the electric car and battery are domiciled here. So you expect that FDI is going to come in. And then if you look at FDI, not only in isolation, there's FDI coming from an improved mining outlook, plus FDI coming from the fact that Zambia is on a restructure program. So you can see that it's a compound effect, and it's clearly Zambia is an attractive investment destination. I heard Mr. Sokwani Chilembo also talk about that. So there's a lot that's going to go on between now and in the next 5 to 10 years, because next there's also exploration as well. So there are those deposits that haven't started being mined, and there's exploration. It takes time. So clearly we can see that the environment is changing slowly. One landmark development also is that the Minerals, Mines and Commission Act is going to be enhanced. So the 2015 Act is going to be upgraded, and what that will mean is also, so it's one thing to have your investment, but there's been a very strong signal that has been sent by the ministry around environmental standards, around technical standards, around adhering to the license requirements, because clearly mining also has a license, and the license has to be adhered to in terms of compliance. And I think if we go back to whatever happened, the impasse was related to breaches and all that, but probably the way it was executed. But now there's that level of clarity. So you expect flows into Zambia. And Zambia has an ambitious target, 3 million metric tons. So that's not just going to come from KCM. So sorting out KCM adds and gets us closer to the 3 million metric tons. But there are other mines that also need to be attended to, the Yomopanis. And then there's also exploration to tap into the existing potential. And with that, we expect that your dollars will start flowing in, and then we can stop having headaches around the FX market, because the largest players in the FX markets are the mines. Yes.
Let's talk about deriving the maximum benefits, because obviously still there is a lot of debate around Vedanta, the Vedanta of the old, the Vedanta of today, but most importantly, Zambians want to see that maximum benefits do come from KCM and not just a potential story. What do we need to hasten as a country to get this?
Value creation is very important. I think this is even independent of whether it's Vedanta, whether it's Mopani or any other mine or FQM. I think the discussion has been around value addition, to say we need to move from just mining copper cathodes and exporting them to probably maybe processing, looking at copper wires. I mean, you've got your Zamefa feeding there. So the question is, what can Zamefa do to ramp up and increase its copper wire production? What can Newcamp also do, and then what opportunities are there in the space that could ramp up value creation? And then also, like I said, mining is exciting because it's got downstream business. You'll be shocked that the level of business that will come from there will not only be from the mines. You've got suppliers, they need sulfuric acid, they need gloves, people need to eat, equipment needs to come in, people need accommodation, and that's an ecosystem which forms the economy of the copper belt. And you can actually see that everything is sort of falling in place. The right will is there. Whether it's Vedanta of the past or now, I would not dwell into that, but what I know is that, look, there is a shareholder, the impasse has been addressed. Yesterday's pronouncements, you could see that they're even being asked to reinstate the board from a governance perspective, and that's showing you that the company is and then the pledges that they've also made, because I think that the muted performance over this period meant that people were owed money and they were not paid. And there's been a pledge to say before anything can start, they will sort out all those areas. Now you can imagine if you're one of the suppliers and you were not paid and this company is now back, it means that it changes the whole ball game, the credit risk profile of the entity. I mean, there could have been entities that could not do business with KCM. For example, financial institutions, they're not going to do business with you if you're not generating any cash flows. But now with this resuscitation, it's looking positive, because then it becomes then attractive to continue operating, and then they can finish up with some of the projects they started. I mean, we're just talking about cobalt right now in Changa. A few years ago, cobalt was looked at as some sort of a wasting asset, but everyone is talking cobalt right now. And if you look at the price of cobalt on the LME, it's pretty much high. So there is great potential that we are seeing, but I guess the level of accountability also just needs to ramp up, so that we don't fall in the same predicament as the asset fell into a few years ago.
On that note, would you say this is the start of clearing uncertainties around the mining sector, especially that all eyes now will be focused on Mopani and its resuscitation plan?
I would say it's not the beginning, it's a continuation, because I think, in my opinion, the signal was sent out the first time the New Dawn government went to the Indaba. I think they sent out some very, very strong signals, and then people were waiting for the manifestation to say, fine, you've sent out strong signals. There are two assets that are not operating the way they should, and the first asset, it's been demonstrated. So with this first asset, it's very clear that it's a signal that's indicating that we could expect the same for the second asset, and then that mining impasse issue that was weighing investor sentiment will then be addressed, and then we can then look forward to the budget. For example, the budget is coming out. I know there's more things that the mines obviously want to say, how are you going to make it attractive for people to come and explore? When people come to explore, exploration takes about 6 to 7 years. So what incentives would they be for people to bring their capital to Zambia and allow them to explore and find minerals, so that we add to the 3 million metric tons? So I guess that's what everybody will be eager and looking forward to.
We look forward to that and hosting you on other platforms to discuss this developing story. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for hosting me.
Muchisunge Zulu is Chief Risk Officer at Zanaco, and he was just talking to us about issues surrounding KCM and how it will impact the economy of the Copper Belt and also the economy of the nation.